Zal Teves. It's the third Sicha, part of the project Likkutei Sichos. Baruch Hashem, we already did two of them, and we are going to start now the third one. The theme of this Sicha is, of course, we know the Alter Rebbe passed away on Chof Dalid Teves, Parsha Shmois, Motzei Shabbos. It was in like the 11th hour, right before Chatzos. And before the Alter Rebbe passed away, he wrote an Igeres. He wrote a letter, which is entitled Iyu V'chayu Chad. He and his life-giving emanations and spheres are one, that's printed in Igeres HaKodesh Siman Chaf. It's a very deep, very esoteric Igeres. And then the Alter Rebbe wrote also, right before he passed away, he wrote a journal. It's called the Shimas Nefesh Hashvela. It's the journal which is literally means the low soul or the humble soul. So that's the two things the Alter Rebbe wrote right before he passed away. And the Rebbe is going to connect this with why the Alter Rebbe wrote these two letters and journals before he passed away. He's going to connect this with the idea of Gashmias, doing a favor for another Jew. The beginning is a little bit cryptic, so I'm going to try my best to translate it, and then we'll see how it connects. Okay. We're going to use the Hebrew version because the Yiddish version, like I told you guys, I didn't print. It's a little bit of an error, so we'll use the Hebrew version. Let's start. Aleph. Yeshnam beis inyani Teda shegiya liyodenu. There are two parts of Torah that came to our reach. Sheyadu lanu sheksav Rabbeinu Hazaken karev shekosav Rabbeinu Hazaken karev l'zman histakusa. We know that the Alter Rebbe composed these two letters prior to his passing. Aleph, Igeres HaKodesh Dibra Maschal Iyu V'chayu Chad. First of all, it was the Igeres of he and his life-giving emanations. You have it?
I think I have the wrong book here.
The last one, the third Sicha. He and his Chayu, him and his Kalim are one. Okay. And number two, the Shimas Nefesh Hashvela, this is the journal entry called the humble soul. B'zeh l'sheina. And now the Alter Rebbe is going to focus on the Nefesh Hashvela Rishima. So he says like this: Nefesh Hashvela, this humble soul, be'emes la'amitoi b'sharshay, the truth of its source, the truly humble soul. So avidasahi Torah gashmis, the truly humble soul, its mission in life, in the physical aspect of Torah, is bein lahavin lacherim, is to get involved in Torah for itself and to teach others as well. Ubein gemilas chasadim gashmim, also to do acts of material kindness. How? Ayidei kiruv adas, either by empathizing with somebody, ve'etzis merachik, and giving them, either by advising them from afar, or, kiruv adas, which is like empathizing, ve'etzis merachik, and giving them advice from afar, b'chol inyane b'nei beisa, in all acts and regarding family matters. So he says like this: Af kirubim kikulim heim divrei sheker. Even though the majority of all these things concern false matters, I efsher binyan acher, it's impossible to do otherwise. Shiyasu chesed shel emes, to do kindness, to practice kindness with another person. Ki ein emes ela Torah, the only truth is Torah. And then he quotes a medrash. Ve'emes amar al yivra, the truth, when it came to creating the world, said, do not create the world. Why? Shekulim malish garim, because the majority of the world is full of lies. Chesed amar, Chesed said yivra, Chesed said to create the world. Why? Shekulim malish chasadim, because the majority of the world is going to be Chesed. So what happened? Tashtach emes arza, He took emes and he cast it into the land, to the ground. And Hashem created the world with chesed, but not chesed of truth, chesed of falseness. So the Rebbe says, so in the previous generations, which the main avodah was Torah, the majority of kindness was included in truth. The Hainu, what does that mean? The Gadol HaMaisa, the Koifin and Mashkin and Chuli, Apitekev Teres Emes HaAmayram. In the early generations, they used to compel people to do acts of kindness, to give tzedakah, and they used to use the authority of Torah, of truth, as taught in the Gemara. However, he says, however, in our generation, in the footsteps, in the footstools of Mashiach, which our sukkah fell, it fell to the level of Asiyah, and the primary avodah is like with the heels, without Mishnayis, Brises, Shein Gadfin, they are the wings, V'yarchin, and the thighs. Most of the kindness that's going on nowadays is not emes. So he says that nowadays the kindness is not according to Torah, and good deeds are motivated by only empathy and goodwill of the doer, which is truly afar. And then he says that good, he goes, and then he says the last actions is rooted into the original thought that motivated to the deed, as we know it's tchilas and b'sefen, v'gam im ein derech acheretz v'hishvela oz l'nachme l'kaba b'alver l'ir l'fashvish b'maisev v'loshuv ad havaya b'tzarlei v'yarviachlei. And then he concludes, but even if there is no other way, and it's a lowly one, a person's nechama is to accept it with love, or to examine his behavior and return to Hashem in his distress, and then he shall find relief. Now, it's a little bit cryptic, but like the Rebbe says, Teichen Beis HaTeiros, the theme of both of these Teiros is Milas HaAsiyah B'Gashmis, is the Mila of actually physical action. Now he says like this: Igeres iyu v'chayu echad isekas begoydel milas hamitzvos maisis asher in tachlis yedidas and hasham elim haza hagashmi. The igeres that begins iyu v'chayu echad, which discusses the greatness of practical mitzvahs, for they are the ultimate purpose of the descent of the neshama into this world. Shenod tchilasan b'seifan, for the beginning is wedged in the end. Dafka b'seifan ha'asiyah, dafka the end, the asiyah oilam haza gashmi, this world yeshna tchilasan koyach ein seif, the mehusev atzmusa shel hamatzil baruch hu. Dafka this world, since seif ma'isa, the last actions, tchilasan b'seifan, so the beginning is edged in the end. That means that the tchilasan, the or in seif, where is it dafka in oilam haza gashmi. Al derech zev v'olam hazagufa kehemshach b'geres hakedesh sham. Dafki b'sed achi tachten. The Alter Rebbe explains over there in the Geres hakedesh that dafki with the lowest of the yesod ha'ofar kayim koyechatzmicha me'ein b'chinas ein seif. Dafki in the level of this yesod, the earth, which is the lowest. Dafki there it has the level of ein seif. Now, so what do we see in the letter of Iyu v'chayu echad? Speaks about physicality, speaks about the physical world, the mila of the physical world. And what's the theme of the journal entry, the humble soul? How we have to practice acts of material kindness. And how this path of Aveda is specifically the final action, which is the original thought. So he says, if the Alter Rebbe wrote these two Teres, right before he passed away. Move on, it's understood. Sheteichon mavia umevates teirosei avedasa beisasha beisachana istakusela ma'amlin. Obviously, it's clear that these themes express these Teres express what the Alter Rebbe stood for, who the Alter Rebbe was. But Tzarech Lahavin, we have to understand. Maya Shaychus the Maila Asilin Estalkus. We have to understand what's the connection between the superiority of Asiya to the Tzaddik's passing. The Lecheir, the Alter Rebbe asks Adrab, on the contrary. Histalkus in Yoni Siluk Valiyim in Yoni Elam Azeh Agashmi. He says that Lecheir, Histalkus denotes departure and ascent from affairs of the material world. So if Histalkus means you're going away from the physical world, why would the Alter Rebbe, right before he passes away, which we know, before a tzaddik passes away, and if he's giving this out, that's what the tzaddik is stressing and personifying.
That was his tzava.
That was his tzava. But l'cheira, if his Histalkus is leaving, why would he stress Dafka the Gashmus? The Rebbe is going to explain even the questions even deeper in another sense. He says like this in base. Yes, sir, al-kain derish bir. Additional points need clarification. B'toichen l'shimas nefesh hashvela, in the theme of the letter nefesh hashvela, masber Rabbeinu Azaken, the Alter Rebbe explains, K'omer sheish lasik b'gmilas chasadim gashmim, asher rubim kin kulam hem divrei sheker. If you be medayik in the Rishim of nefesh hashvela, the Alter Rebbe says that you have to engage in acts of material kindness, which the majority, if not all, concerns false matters. It's a wonder. The life, the tzaddik's life, is not a fleshly life, but a spiritual life. It's a tzaddik hayised v'ateichen shenyani gashmi hu rak mashal yodem hu memalis shenyani aneshama. The value of material matters is only that for a tzaddik they serve as like a vehicle to carry out the interests of the neshama. And this also refers to his entire life. So if by a tzaddik's life is not physical, a tzaddik's life is chayim ruchrim, it's a spiritual life. So how much more so right before a tzaddik passes away, in the Gashmis, for sure, Gashmis, the realms of material, should hold absolutely no value to the tzaddik. Over here, here the Alter Rebbe is like demanding before he passes away. Here the Alter Rebbe is like demanding how we have to be involved in Gashmis, in taking care of our household. Not only because the Torah says that you have to support your family, so I'm going to support my family. Rather, Eitza Gashmis l'shem inyan agashmi levadi shmachmaskein nidim elu k'divrei sheker. Alter Rebbe is saying as we have to do a favor for a material advice for the sake of material matters itself, which is dvarim divrei sheker. Okay, so now he says like this: V'yuvan ze behektim tesefes bir b'inyan anal shechayat tzadik einem chayim sarim kim chayim ruchnim shem emuna v'yira v'ava. We'll understand this by adding and explaining that the life of a tzaddik is not a chayim sarim, but rather a spiritual life. Which, what is the spiritual life of a tzaddik? This comprises faith and awe and love of Hashem. So he says the l'chein movement is not understood. Halei aveda the ma'isa mitzvus. The avodah performing mitzvahs can only be achieved with the body and material objects. As we know, study is not the main thing. Action is the main thing. If so, how could you say shechaya tzaddik? And what's the life of a tzaddik? Chaim ruchnim is spiritual life, shem emunah v'yira v'ava, which is faith, fear, and love. So now the Rebbe asks a different question. You're saying that the life of a tzaddik is not a physical life, it's a spiritual life. But we know that in this world you have to do action. And the only way to do action is by being in a physical body and doing with physical things. So how does that work? So he says like this, what's the explanation? It's a tzaddik, avodah the ma'aseh mitzvahs, ain't a davar nifrad ma'avodas haruchnis. By the tzaddik, the avodah of performing mitzvahs is not like isolated from his spiritual avodah. Amunah v'yirah v'ava. It's not two separate things, that you have the ma'aseh mitzvahs and the amunah v'yirah and ava. Kiyam mitzvahs asay, who atzlei teitzah ma'avas Hashem. The reason why the tzaddik is fulfilling the mitzvahs asay is because he is so imbued with avas Hashem. The kiyam mitzvahs leisaseh, and this that the tzaddik is fulfilling the mitzvahs leisaseh, teitzah v'sim shayiras Hashem, is because he's so imbued with yiras Hashem. So that's why he's doing the mitzvah. And this is all because he has the amunas Hashem. So he has the amunas Hashem, and he has the yira, he has the ava, and through that he's able, and that's why he's running to do mitzvahs. And this that we're saying, emphasizing that action is the main thing, is because the action brings to light his spiritual avodah. Even tzaddik, oyeves Hashem as Shem Hashem, since the tzaddik loves Hashem, and he wants to be one with Hashem, he wants to cleave with Hashem, and it's impossible to cleave with Hashem in a true way, only by fulfilling the 248 mitzvahs, Shem Ramach Ivar and the Malka, which are the limbs of the king. Like the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya, Perek Lamed Hey, that by connecting to Hashem through Torah and mitzvahs, which is the will of Hashem, that's the idea of Shechina residing. Which is much higher than the dveikus that a person has. Therefore, if a person has true love of Hashem, he must be involved in Torah mitzvahs. Therefore, so therefore, when a person does ma'aseh mitzvahs through the body, to fulfill the kavanah of Nisaba Kadosh Baruch Hu, that Hashem desired to make a dir b'tachtenim, so he has to bring out the light of the Shechina also on his body. That he has to make his body a kli, a receptacle to Or v'Oros HaShechina. He has to make his kli such a vehicle to godliness until his body becomes ois mitzias. So the true expression of somebody, a tzaddik who has avos Hashem, is dafka when the Gashmis also shows how it